Good evening, race fans, and welcome to race number 33 of the Velocity Racing League 2022 Cup Series. We are here today at Long Beach, the street circuit here in California. My name is Mason Heimbaugh. Joined alongside me, Gareth McAllister with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight, 1080p, 60 frames, a second for 63 laps, 200 kilometers around this tricky, technical street circuit. Gareth, I know that you have raced a little bit on this. Well, not a little bit, but raced quite often here. Granted, not in these ARCAs, but you do have some experience behind the wheel at this track, and kind of walk us through some of the technical challenges that some drivers may be facing here today in these cars, other than the fact that these cars have extremely small brakes, and it's going to be a tough run for these drivers given the tight hairpins as well as the chicane with the fountain.
Yeah, it's gonna be very, very tricky to navigate this course here at Long Beach. It's quite a technical track. There's no forgiving sections at all. The walls are very, very close to you, and in a big heavy car with, as you said, little brakes and really no driver aids whatsoever. So it will be interesting. As you can see, the corner just here that the 89 of Sean Williams is coming to, you can see that corner there, the car gets very, very light over the off-cambered corner, and it really makes the rears light up and really want to spin around. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And the fountain, as is well known for, is going to be very tricky as they come to turn 2. It gets very, very tight, and at the end, most notably, is that super, super tight hairpin that you can go too wide, but if you do, be prepared to get some little bits of wall coming with you down to the straight, because yeah, it's gonna be very, 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 very tight in traffic in this one. We should see a lot of good tight racing.
Absolutely, and we're taking a look right now on our screens. The 92 machine, normally driven by Tony Hilbrands, but due to some issues with his pedals in his setup, he is unable to compete in tonight's race. I believe his gas, or his throttle, has stopped working, so he's unable to use his throttle on his pedals. So last race, he actually competed with his clutch as his throttle, and I just can't commend him more for that. That is a truly difficult situation to be put in, and to be able to perform as well as he did despite all that. Great work there from Tony Hilbrands. But tonight it is Aaron Smith behind the wheel of the 92 machine, normally in the 20 lean mean yellow machine. He's going to be in the 92 Phenom Paint Shop machine representing Tony Hilbrands, and the Phenom Paint Shop gets a little bit of a scrape as he comes across, actually just before the checkered line, I believe. Big slide into turn 1 here.
Yeah, almost looked like he was ready to join the drifting pros there. I mean,
it's clutch kickers here.
That would have been a great entry, really, for a drifting section of the course. But yeah, definitely having to get acquainted with the 92's equipment behind pit wall. So having a little bit of difficulty, but certainly showing just how fast Aaron Smith still is in anything you give him, especially on a road course with a daunting time of 1:23.71.
Yeah, and looking right now at Ashley Lyle in the 51 machine. Last week she came home second place on the podium at Auto Club Speedway, so good race for her. And coming into tonight here at Long Beach, Ashley is one of the drivers that we haven't really got to see too much throughout the season, but I've seen it throughout the races that she has competed in, particularly, I can't recall the exact road courses that we've seen Ashley compete in, but she's done well there, and I expect to see some similar performance here from the 51 driver here as well. Already putting herself up in third place on the pole right now in qualifying with a 125.46. So Aaron Smith clearly showing his dominance here. I don't think anyone's really going to be able to match that 123.7 pace that he set here for qualifying. Aaron Smith has just all season long has shown he is the driver to beat when it comes to road courses, and so far not a whole lot of drivers have been able to kind of get up there and, ooh, man, Ashley Lyle, a big bump into the wall into turn 1 there. But, yeah, Gareth, I mean, to see all these drivers coming here today and tackling a track such as Long Beach, I mean, we've got some very tight turns here that we're watching the 09 of James Miller work his way through. That's the final turn before the long straightaway across the checkered line. And you can even see the little DRS marker there indicating where, if Formula One ever raced here again, where, you'd see some fast cars going real quick. Anyway, but, Gareth, coming here tonight with these cars, I mean, knowing that it's going to be very difficult to make any sort of passing happen, any sort of real competition to, send it deep on the inside on someone there, as the number 3 of Logan Jones, he gets a little bit of a refresh there real quickly. But, yeah, I mean, Gareth, what are some of the challenges you think drivers could face here before we get ourselves started tonight?
Well, I mean, one interesting challenge that I didn't expect to see actually coming into today's race, but from what I can see from what the drivers are struggling with, is the actual straightaway for the start-finish straight is not entirely straight. It's actually got quite a bit, actually, not a very small, quite a bit of a right-hand sort of kink corner to it, which in the cars that I'm familiar with and most of the cars that come here, they have enough downforce to go full throttle and not really worry about it. But with these machines, obviously no real driver aids, not all that much downforce, no anti-lock braking system, no traction control. See, this right-hander here, I'm actually seeing quite a few of the drivers get loose a little bit. Logan Jones showing that he's got the skill not to get as loose as the others. And as I say that, of course, I eat my own words. But yeah, so there's proof in there's proof in the pudding for you. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of struggle on the start-finish straight, and I certainly did not expect to see coming into tonight's race. But that will certainly be one to look for, it looks like.
Yeah, and I didn't even really consider that, Gareth, before you mentioned that. But yeah, that subtle but just ever so slight curve that we have here. Here's a good view of the track map that you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here as James Coulibaly, the 22 machine, makes his way through the final few turns here before that front straightaway. And yeah, you can see that kind of gentle curve that is midway through that straight, if you will. And again, like Gareth was alluding to, drivers that are full on the gas are going to potentially find themselves just trying to keep that car underneath them can be a little challenging. Just given there's no banking here. This is a street course. We're racing on where people would drive every day. So there's no sort of banking being involved. There's no sort of help as far as, track conditions, things like that. My point being here is that these cars are being put to their absolute test here. Drivers are being put to the test here as well, and it's going to be a true testament to these drivers and their abilities behind these cars. And I say that almost every single time we come to a road course, but these street circuits are definitely a different breed of their own when it comes to road course racing. And I think it brings a different dynamic to the racing, and for these drivers, it brings a different dynamic to their driving styles here as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, as I'm sure the viewers and yourself is well aware, because it's a street circuit, it's just regular roads. There's quite a lot of bumps. It's not a flat surface by any means. So even if it looks flat, I'm sure in the car you're feeling almost every bump that has accumulated over the years of cars going round and round on the actual surface itself, creating little divots and holes all over the place. And another point of talk, because I can't stress enough just how tricky this track is. Pit road is an interesting one because you can't really see it from just watching the cars go around the track, but it's in the wall on the left-hand side there, as you saw coming out of the hairpin. It's a very small gap that you've really got to get right, and if you find yourself sending it in there with too much acceleration, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, drivers are definitely going to have to be on the lookout. They're going to have to be very, very careful with, I want to say just speed management. It's probably not the correct term, but I feel like you have to be...
Throttle control.
Throttle control, yes. Thank you, Gareth. And I think it's going to be extremely critical in a race like this where, again, we have these really tight turns, really tight 90-degree turns, and frankly, just some very, very tight sections of the track in of itself, given you don't have a lot of room for cars to navigate through. Some sections of the track are pretty much only a one-car kind of rodeo. You can't really get side by side with anyone. Right here, this is a good view of the fountain, a section of the track where it's difficult to get side by side with someone. Not saying it's impossible, but definitely not easy. Let's go ahead and get into our starting lineup here for today's race. Up in the front row, we've got Aaron Smith, the 92 machine, here tonight for Phenom Paint Shop in substitution for Tony Hillbrand's up there in the front row. James Miller taking second place here tonight with Howie Briss and Ashley Lyle in the second row. Daniel Mosteller, Nicholas Lovell in the third row. Sean Williams, Jaden Hopp in our fourth row. Logan Jones and Matthew Fitz in our fifth row. James Coulibaly, Connor Gibson in our sixth row. And Howie Dietrich, Patrick Colby in our seventh row. Scott Shire and Nicholas Corcel in our final row. A little bit of a smaller field here tonight. Some drivers just not feeling the road course racing, or rather the street course racing here tonight, as we're going to go ahead and get ready for the action to start here, waiting for the pace car to make way around the track and get our drivers ready for the start of today's event. And Gareth, I got to say, this is going to be an interesting start to tonight's race. I mean, I don't want to say it too early, but I think we all know how well Aaron Smith is going to do here tonight. But what I'm really curious to see is how well some of these other drivers are going to do here tonight. Drivers like Howie Briss, drivers like Ashley Lyle, and even James Miller, who's up here in the front row. I'm very curious to see where they're going to end up once the checkered flag comes out here tonight.
Yeah, it should be very interesting as we are underway. James Miller gets a really good launch, actually. Aaron Smith is left wanting, but I'm sure he's going to fight on that, what will be inside line, outside for the start-finish, of course. And they're going to go too wide, and it looks like Smith, they're going to leave each other a lot of room, but Miller might actually have the upper hand heading into the fountain, and wow, nose to tail, so close. As you see a little bit of sparks from the wall there as Miller just gets a little bit of a grab. There's a little bit loose. I think that was from Nicholas Lovell. And a little bit again, but ooh, these cars are squirrely.
Definitely, and being on a fresh set of tires, on a cool set of tires at that, and on a track where, well, on a course where the track temperatures are pretty much going to be fluctuating the entire time. I don't think there's going to be any sort of consistency that these drivers can rely on for grip or anything of that matter. It's going to be a constant fight all 64 laps of today's race. And right now, heading into what will be, I'm blanking on the turn number, but it is through the final few turns that we have here before the long straight, or rather curve, if you will, subtle curve that we have here coming out of the final turn across the checkered line. And James Miller actually taking the lead here, showing his dominance out of the start. And I think, Gareth, I mean, you know, coming from a road course background, I would almost have to say that the first lap is almost the most important lap of a road course race.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree with you 100%. You know, you can avoid any incidents that may or may not occur during lap one shenanigans, as we'll call it. And you also you can grab the lead, get that fresh air, keep the guy behind you. It's always a big advantage. But there's you know, we've gotten a sorted, you know, no spins, no real dramas as of yet, apart from a couple of loose rear ends towards the mid pack here. So it seems to be like we'll have quite the long green flag run, which should be interesting. And I feel like the battle that Aaron Smith is going to give James Miller up front is going to be one crazy ride.
Yeah, and speaking of rides, we're going to take a ride on board here with James Miller looking out the rear view. We can see Aaron Smith, the 92 Phenom paint shop machine, all over the rear end of James Miller here, trying to get an upper hand here as we go through the final right-hander. Down the front straightaway and across the checkered line, James Miller still holding on to the lead here on lap 3 of 64. Still a lengthy race left to go here. And speaking of kind of what to expect here for today's race, the fuel window is only going to be about a 1 pit stop, possibly 2 for tires and fuel. And it looks like we have, I actually don't have an estimated fuel window. It might just depend on each driver's capability here. I'm not entirely too certain, but I'm gonna, what do you think, Gareth? I'm thinking somewhere probably right smack dab in the middle, lap 32, we'll just call it right there.
I will agree with you. I'll agree with you on that one. I think anywhere between 30 and 40 laps, I would say, is going to be your rough estimation of a fuel window. The tires will be interesting as to whether they last very long. Both drivers there, you see the 31 and the 7 of Connor Gibson and Nicholas Corsell. They were giving each other a lot of room heading into that off-cambered corner. Both unhappy with the handling of their vehicle, I'm sure, at the moment, but Corsell getting the upper hand there. So anyway, it's good to see the drivers that we've had come out to Long Beach. It's a very tricky track. I'm sure a lot of teams were thinking about maybe giving this one a little bit of a skip, but it's nice to see the amount of drivers that we've got come out for this event here today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to see the number of drivers that have stepped up to the plate and decided to attend tonight's race and put down their best attempts here. And so far, it seems like a good majority of the field has done fairly well here at this point. The only driver I'm seeing still that actually doesn't seem like has started the race is Howie Dietrich, the number 34 machine, still down in pit road. Unsure why at this point, probably just didn't want to start the race. But either way, either how, everyone else is still out here clicking off laps, and so far the only driver kind of really out of the picture here with the rest of the field is James Coulibaly, the number 22 machine, currently finding himself a little bit further from the rest of the field than he would probably like to be. And frankly, Gareth, I mean, with a race that's going to potentially stay green here until the end, that's not going to be a situation that you want to be in, and hopefully you'll have some sort of strategy down in pit road to kind of mitigate some of that.
Yeah, that's going to be really quite the gap to try and bring back together. I'm not sure that that one's going to be able to come back to him too easily. Pit strategy is obviously going to play a role, but it's definitely going to be a difficult time for him. As you can see here, that Logan Jones and Patrick Colby fighting for that 7th position on track. And a couple of different lines we can see. Logan Jones taking a much straighter sort of entry than Colby. Patrick Colby is taking more of a, I guess exit speed is his strategy. And he's going to get the draft down into turn 1. So this is the heaviest braking zone on track. So yeah, no, that looks like he's going to stay behind Logan Jones for the moment, potentially make a move in the future. But this is the closest battle on track at the moment. James Miller has actually gapped Aaron Smith a little bit to half a second at this present time. This battle being, well, as close as you can see, they're only 0.2 of a second from each other. So very, very close indeed. Sorry there.
No worries. And I was just taking a look here. I was a little confused for a second. Scott Shire here, for some reason I thought he might have dropped out of the race for a second, but no, it seems like he may have made contact with the wall at some point and has dropped down to the bottom of the field. Now going to be trailing behind James Coulibaly in the number 22 machine. So James Coulibaly not going to be the only driver here down on their luck tonight, and I'm gonna have a friend to race with back here in the tail end of the field.
Well, Scott Shire coming out of the hairpin, I saw just towards the end, as we were watching that battle, just in the back of shot, you could see it seemed like he took the hairpin a little bit too aggressively. So it seems like the front left has been dented inwards, and that's probably due to contact heading out of the hairpin corner. So that's probably what's given him the damage there, and I'm sure he'll want to back that entry up a little bit
That was
as almost seeing the wall once again.
You know, and I've driven these cars a handful of times on road courses. Not enough to be an expert in it by any means, but I gotta say, oh god, I just noticed that the 31 machine, Connor Gibson, if you can see it through his windshield, SpongeBob is driving the 31 machine. I love to see it. Anyway, back to my point that I was making here. These cars are extremely difficult to make through these very, very tight turns. They don't like turning very easily. It almost feels like trying to drive a boat, a very big boat at that. Oh, it's Connor Gibson. Big contact into the wall to the 31 Pepsi machine, and he's going to drop back behind Sean Williams in the 89, try and rebuild some of that momentum that he just lost, and he's going to have similar damage to what we saw on the 81 of Jaden Hobbs, or excuse me, Scott Shire's machine in the number 4 car. But yeah, Gareth, I mean, we got to give credit to these drivers for making it look easier than it actually is, because folks, these cars are they're a different breed on the road. But also, real quickly, I want to give a shout out to everyone tuning in, everyone watching, as well as Tony Hillbrands, who unfortunately is not able to be in the race himself tonight, again, due to the hardware issues with his racing setup with his pedals. So, again, Aaron Smith taking his place here, but we have Dawn Hillbrands, as per usual. Great to still have her tuning in, even though that Tony is not technically racing. It's always great to have Dawn here. Marcus Regal also showing up here. Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching, and hopefully everyone's enjoying the show so far. Good racing that we have, and I'm expecting to see more good action here as things develop a little bit further.
Yeah, we'll wanna keep an eye on that battle for the lead as well, I'm sure, Mason, because Brisson Mosteller as well getting kind of close for P4 as well. So there's quite a few battles that very actually surprising me. I didn't think we'd have this many battles this close, as well as James Miller really showing Aaron Smith, you know what, Long Beach, this is mine. Shoo. So so yeah, that Toyota is working hard and showing a lot of strength at the moment. So hopefully we'll be able to handle the pressure that Aaron Smith is clearly putting on that rear bumper of the 09 machine.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder if how James Miller, oh boy, a little bit of a slide out of the rear end of the 09 machine. Almost looked like he was going to lose it there for a second, but that just goes to show you the skills of James Miller in the 09 machine. Just a little bit behind them, though. Ashley Lyle having a little bit of a moment, it sounded like there. I heard the scrapes and bangs of something happening behind them, but either way, I mean, James Miller has been showing that he can compete here with Aaron Smith. And one thing I gotta wonder here, Gareth, is how those tires are going to be looking here for James Miller, and as well as Aaron Smith. I mean, these two drivers are clearly driving it away from the rest of the field. Ashley Lyle is just over 2.5 seconds behind them in that third place spot, but beyond that, we're almost 10 seconds from the rest of the field. So, from qualifying, Aaron Smith seemingly had the pace to just drive away this race and basically just come across the line by himself. But now James Miller is showing he's got what it takes too, and this is some very interesting developments happening into tonight's race.
Well, it's like you said earlier on in the show. You were talking about how it's so important to get out front on lap 1, and James Miller was, well, incredibly determined to make that point happen, and did so as he's led every single lap of this race so far. And that was really the key for him to keep Smith behind him is to just get in the front early and just back the car up and make it as wide as possible, so that Aaron Smith is going to have quite a bit of trouble to try and make it around him. As you can see, the battle just keeps going. It's almost never ending as Aaron Smith very nearly gets into the back. Might have given a little bit of a love tap to James Miller there under braking, and almost certainly locking up the tires as well. So like you were saying, the tires are not going to be happy with either of these drivers at the moment, but I do believe that they should run out of fuel before having too many tire issues. However, it would be interesting to see just how much wear is on the tires for these front few, including, like you said, Ashley Lyle. She said that she was very excited to turn up to Long Beach, and she loves road courses. I spoke to her on the podium last week, and she seemed very keen. So, and she's doing a great job, only 2 seconds behind these leaders and slowly catching up, which is another interesting point to mention as well.
Yeah, you know, and that's going to be another interesting kind of thing to look at here as the race goes on, is some of the drivers' long run speed compared to their short run. You know, we've seen plenty of these drivers short run, long run speed on the oval, but we don't really get to see it too much at the road course. And every road course is different. And not to say that every oval is the same, because that is a very ignorant statement to make. But my point being here is that road courses can really have some... Oh boy, Howie Briss here, the 97, trying to fend off Daniel Mosteller in the 87 machine. Fending off for the 4th place spot here. Howie Briss trying to keep himself up in at least the top 5, it seems like. But back to my point... oh boy, Gareth, I'm losing it.
You're talking about how Howie Briss was really holding off Mosteller, and we were talking about how the long run pace will be like much different, or we don't really talk about it on street circuits as we do, or road courses as we do to ovals.
Yes,
but
yes.
Hopefully that comes back to you soon, as we've still got this battle between Howie Briss and Daniel Mosteller. Interesting point of note for Howie Briss, he's still leading the standings by I don't know if I'd call it a considerable margin. It was bigger. It's come down after that disappointing race for him last week. It was very unfortunate to see that happen to Howie Briss late on in that race, and it kind of ruined his race a little bit for him. So sitting right now in the 4th position, doing a fantastic job and trying to hold on to that lead, Daniel Mosteller is trying to, well, I guess get into the top 4 himself, and wants to put Howie Briss a little bit behind.
And apologies,
yes,
folks, for those of you trying to look at the point standings as I'm pulling them up. My old computer is not being too happy with it today, so we're just going to go through the points well, we'll explain them to you. Anyway, right now as we're watching the battle between James Miller and Aaron Smith, the battle for the championship, well, maybe not even necessarily the championship itself, as Howie Briss still has an extremely dominant hold on that championship right now. It sounds like Ashley just made a big old contact with the wall there. Nicholas Lovell, Jaden Hopp, Tony Hillbrands, all still going to be competing for that 2nd place spot. Now, Nicholas Lovell has quite the hold on that 2nd place spot at this moment. Jaden Hopp with 76 points behind 2nd place driver Nicholas Lovell. Tony Hillbrand's going to be, looks to be, oh boy, math, a little bit over 110 points behind 2nd place driver, Nicholas Lovell. So positions are going to be important, or well, finishes rather, are going to be important for drivers still looking to get those spots here in the final few races that we have. And next week we head to Laguna Seca, where Gareth, I mean, things are going to get even more spicy. I can't remember the name of the turn. I know we talked about it last
The
week.
corkscrew.
The corkscrew, there it is. I keep wanting to say the section from Mount Panorama, which is wildly incorrect, but would also
Dipper.
the Dipper. It would be equally terrifying, I think, in these cars. But either way,
Oh, at least on the corkscrew, you got some runoff. The Dipper's it's just mean.
the
I mean,
Dipper
don't get me
is.
wrong. Being Australian, I love Bathurst, but oof, yeah, it's a mean old track, that one.
You know, and Gareth, the funny thing is, you want to know the first track that I ever drove on the iRacing service was? One of them, at least.
I feel like you're going to tell me Bathurst after what we've been saying.
It was Bathurst.
That's... Yeah, okay. How's that fun?
Fun is an interesting way to describe it. It was in the Skip Barber as well, so that was also quite interesting. So, yeah.
Oh, battle for the lead.
James Miller, Aaron Smith duking it out side by side here. Smith taking it on the inside here, trying to get up into the front through the final few turns, but Miller going to be on the inside through the last. Right-hander contact to the rear end from the 92, Aaron Smith. It's a battle down the straightaway. Ashley Lyle also getting up into the mix here. Gareth, it is a battle for the lead and an intense one here on lap 14.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't stopped battling at all, which has allowed Ashley Lyle to really gain confidence and gain spots in, well, gain time, I should say, not gain spots, not just yet, but definitely looking to as they head into the fountain section there, turn 2, turn 3. I'm not sure if that's considered turn 3 or not, that little kink to the left there after the fountain, but yeah, this corner's the really tricky one where they lose the rear end and you can see the curb is very high. Ashley Lyle doing a great job of not getting too loose over that corner there, but yeah, Miller able to hold off Smith for the moment, and Lyle definitely wants a piece of this cake, and I'm sure she's going to stay there, hang back, hope that there's a little bit of a battle still that gets brewing, and maybe it gets a little bit more contact, some disaster happens, and Lyle can sail right through. But she also may want to get involved herself. We'll have to find that one out. But oh, it's getting spicy up here, Mason.
Oh, it absolutely is, and I can't imagine what James Miller is feeling right now, having not only Aaron Smith in his rear view, but Ashley Lyle as well, just lingering behind them. And James Miller has done a phenomenal job fending these two drivers off, particularly Aaron Smith, who has been all over his bumper here ever since the start of the race. And lap 15, we're seeing no signs of James Miller being shaken up from this at all. I mean, he is just being incredibly confident and incredibly consistent here at Long Beach. And I think that at the end of the day, this is what's going to help him the most, is that consistency and being able to hit those marks, hit that racing line almost perfectly every single time. As we're riding on board from the rear view camera, I know you can't really see what line he's taking, but you can see where he's been. And oh man, a little bit of a scrape to the wall there as we come through turn 6 out onto the short straight into turn 8. But as I was mentioning here, you can see the line work that he's taking here, and he is using every bit of track that he can.
Yeah, I think I said loose again. That might not have been loose, might have been just allowances for lap down car of Matthew Fitz, unfortunately getting just bad timing really for the leaders to catch up to Matthew Fitz there. But that's a little bit of damage on Matthew Fitz's car. Looks like he's had some run-ins with the wall. We had Jaden Hopp also leave after a few laps, so he's had problems as well as Howie Dietrich, who elected not to start this one. So we've had some drivers having some issues and some problems coming here to Long Beach, which was not completely unexpected, considering just how difficult this track is and how unforgiving it is when you do make a mistake. But yeah, it's one thing I can't, we can't stress enough up here in the booth is just how talented these guys are. Oh, I say these guys and girls. Ashley Lyle proving that, I mean, and as I say that, she gets to the wall as well. But just a little bit of a love tap, nothing too major, as she's also still getting involved in this battle here. And yeah, Miller, Smith, Lyle, I mean, the talent that those three in particular have between them, it's insane to me.
Oh, I mean, it's incredible to see the level of talent that we have here in the sim racing world. While it might not be real world $150,000 race cars that we're driving around here, oh man,
boy.
spicy action here as
Three wide.
Oh boy.
That was tight. That was very tight with the lap down cars there. One of them, I'm not sure who it was. That's going to be Connor Gibson in the 31 machine, the blue car. He decided, I think he elected to take the little bit of access road instead of making the corner with the leaders and James Koulibaly as well on the inside. So very, very smart decision and great respect from him to leave that gap so that the leaders can pass. I'm not going to say safely. I'm sure there was still a little bit of concerns in the 09 and the 92 machine, but they made it through without too much worry. So that's the main thing, and we continue this battle that seems to never end.
No, it really doesn't, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon, at least from what we can see. And frankly, what I'm more curious about here, Gareth, is the fact that, okay. What I'm more curious about here, Gareth, is the fact that we haven't seen a separation of these leaders yet. Normally, typically, what we've seen in the past from the road course racing is we see this gap start to build between, frankly, all of the drivers, the entire field, and we're sort of seeing that here now in this first half of the race here. But the fact that we have these three drivers, essentially, James Miller, Aaron Smith, and Ashley Lyle, all in this tight group here in the top three, really surprises me. It really, on a track like Long Beach, I would almost think that there would maybe be a second or two more between these drivers, but no, they're all within a second of each other, with the exception of Ashley Lyle, who's got a little bit further back than what she'd probably like to be, but she's still up there. She's still clicking off lap times. Right now, everyone's a little bit slower than what we were at the start of the race here, given tire wear, so on and so forth, but last time around, James Miller set down a time of 127.98, Aaron Smith with a 128.06, and Ashley Lyle with a 128.25. Everyone else in the field right now is about a minute 30, a minute 29 or greater. So these drivers really showing their consistency here tonight, Gareth.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no question about it. Just how not only quick, but how consistently quick these drivers are. Scott Shire is going to be on the optimal racing line, so that's not going to work out. I'm staggered that actually worked out, as I was going to say, not going to work out well for James Miller, but apparently I'm proven wrong, as James Miller's really made that one at least stick, and Scott Shire is still going to be on the inside. That's not the ideal place to be. Ashley Lyle's caught up due to the traffic slowing the field down a little bit ahead of her. As you can see just how tight they are coming through the hairpin. Was that a car in? No, I thought I saw a car in the wall. I was wrong.
Oh,
Patrick
whoa.
Colby is fine and well. There's Scott Shire in the background. Number
I think
4
this might
going
bring out a
for
yellow.
a wild ride. No, we're going to stay green.
Oh, man. And sometimes, depending on the conditions, if there is a car stopped on the racing surface,
Ooh.
sometimes the yellow is brought out here. We've got some action forming back here, though. Look at this. Howie Briss and Daniel Mosteller still duking it out, but lap traffic as well. Go ahead, Gareth.
Well, I was just going to say, that's another battle that's been happening as we've been looking at the lead. This battle for 4th position here. Howie Briss,
Connor
Gibson getting a little bit of a lock up there, but yeah, we've got Howie Briss and Daniel Mosteller are really fighting it out, still continuing as well. So those two battles, they're not stopping anytime soon, and they're take no credit away from these two either, or anyone else in the field, really. I mean, this car is so difficult, this track is so difficult. It's one crazy combo, and it's been fantastic to see the way that really no one's had too many issues, and certainly not really many issues that have really caused any major accident with any other drivers getting involved. So that's been great to see.
Yeah, you know, Gareth, and I just kind of had a thought pop into my head. You might not like it, but we're going to test it out here. I feel like this track and car combination is almost like kind of like a rally race, but on pavement. It's wild in every single way, and it kind of gives me that same sensation as you would from behind the wheel of a rally car ripping through a forest. I mean, these cars are just extremely skittish. Anything can happen in the snap of a finger, and while we're not exactly seeing the top speed from these cars that we would on normal ovals here, as Daniel Mosteller keeping that car from locking up, though. No smoke coming from the tires from the 87 machine as he works his way through one and now through the fountain here. And man, Gareth, it's a wild experience. From a spectator's point of view, from a commentating point of view, and probably even from a driver's point of view.
It's difficult. I'm not not so certain about that analogy. That seems like an interesting one, but yeah, no. Regardless, I mean, these, you can't take anything away from these drivers here today. This is very, very incredible stuff, and Mosteller there really just had to really lock down the brakes without locking them up, because that makes a lot of sense in the English language. But yeah, so because he tried to make that move on the outside, which was the inside when he made the move, and we've got Lovell going for a little bit of a spin, able to keep it underneath him. So I'm so impressed that we haven't had more spins. Like, we've had a lot of loose drivers, and and there's a spin as I say it. I think that's Connor Gibson. There it is. Yeah, but he gets pointed back in the right direction. Car goes past, no real issues. Matthew Fitz, and we're gonna stay green. It's look, I thought if any road course was gonna give us a yellow, it was gonna be this one. We got a battle, James Miller and Aaron Smith. We should we should look at that.
Miller and Aaron Smith continuing to duke it out side by side here, as I snapped to the lead, snapped to the battle right on cue there. That was kind of perfect timing there, Gareth. But we're continuing to see James Miller, Aaron Smith, Ashley Lyle fight for this lead spot here, and we're just about 10 laps before our predicted pit lap here, and I think, Gareth, at this point, the question of will this be a two-stop race is pretty much out of the window here. I think these drivers are going to make this a one-stop race.
No, they can definitely make it on one stop. As you can see, Aaron Smith didn't get the launch out of the hairpin that he was hoping for. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a one-stop race. Interestingly, though, I was assuming, because in my infinite wisdom that is often wrong, I was assuming that we weren't going to see much tire fall off. Well, judging from what I can see with the rear ends on all of these cars, I mean, Miller's been showing us, Smith's been showing us. Really, Ashley's the only one I think so far I haven't seen a big sort of, moment where she's lost the rear. She's been fairly consistent, and I can't help but wonder if that's just due to she's not really having to. I don't know. Should I just not talk, Mason? Because every time I say something else happens to just contradict everything I've said.
Well, Gareth, I think that's just a part of this job of commentary is that sometimes you kind of just shoot yourself in your own foot. That's just how it happens. I don't know. But I mean, you're right though. I think you're 100% right. I mean, Ashley she's been able to stay up here relatively close to the leaders. I mean, she's in the top 3. You can't take that away from her. She's still in that third place spot at this moment, but she really hasn't been able to kind of reel in these two as close as she would want to. And if when she has been able to, it really hasn't been able to stick. And that might just be because, again, this is a tough track to make any sort of passing happen. We've seen it all race long with James, excuse me, James Miller and Aaron Smith. I mean, both of these two drivers have been fighting side by side. Well, they've been fighting bumper to bumper. See, now you're contagious, Gareth. You're contagious.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
It's all right, though. We're having a great time.
Sweeping us up here in the booth as Ashley Lyle gets a little bit too heavy on the brakes, and the that car not happy with the way she was trying to turn in. It looks like she's only started to get that feeling of, well, the rears probably aren't super happy with me at the moment. I still think that these drivers, as difficult as this car is to handle at the moment, are going to try and stay out till at least halfway, which would be on lap 32. We're on lap 23 heading into 24 at the moment, so I think they'll still be out for another 10 or so laps. They can definitely do that. I'm pretty sure they can do that on fuel. And on tires, I believe they will, just because I mean, personally, I would prefer to have, if I can only make one stop, I'm only going to make one stop, and I would prefer to have fresher tires at the end when it really matters than having older tires at the end and having someone pressure you from behind and getting a little bit loose towards the end. But maybe you're different to me, Mason. I'm not sure.
You know, Gareth, I like to play things pretty safe most of the time when it comes to racing. I'm not a race strategist. I usually have no idea what I'm doing when I'm going down through the pits. I usually just follow the leader. When it's time to come down pit road, it's time to go down. It's not my strong suit. It's not something that I really am confident with. You know, and I hear it all the time from drivers, you know, talking about, you know, if I come down on this certain lap, I'll be able to have, you know, 5-10 lap fresher tires and, you know, so on and so forth. But that's such a small detail of coming down through the pits. You know, you have to be able to make that stop. You have to be able to come down through the pits without getting a penalty of any kind, whether that's a speeding penalty, whether that's, you know, you hit something going through pit road. Granted, on the iRacing service, you don't necessarily have to worry about that, but you can still make contact with the wall because you weren't paying attention or something. You look down at your phone for half a second, whatever the case may be. Obviously, you shouldn't be looking at your phone while you're racing, even if it is a simulator, but you get my point. Distractions are still a thing. And I don't know, Gareth. I think for me, and for a lot of other sim racers, casual sim racers, if you will, granted, I love my job as a commentator. I take it very seriously, and I am very passionate about it. But when it comes to my driving abilities, I am very well aware that I am not going to be someone, you know, fighting for a championship or anything like that. And I think that, I don't know. I think that kind of whole, I'm not necessarily sure how to end that one, Gareth. Kind of at a loss for words.
Look, I think you don't give yourself enough credit. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna throw that in there. You know, I mean, I've seen you drive a couple of times. Not as often as I'd like to, Mason. I'll be honest. But I mean, I haven't seen you drive badly. So I don't know why a championship. I don't know why a championship would be out of the question for you in any series. Maybe you just haven't found the car that you want to drive really at the moment. As Aaron Smith is really sending it on James Miller here. Ashley Lyle's dropped back a little bit. I think had a little bit more contact with the wall and not making friends with it. But yeah, so James Miller, I'm still led every single lap so far. And as we've heard in the comments, you know, Tony Hilbrands himself coming out and saying that there's a lot of slipping and sliding, and you can see the tires really falling off. And I mean, that's obvious to everyone who's watching at home and us watching in the booth. I mean, I thought tires would last. I was wrong, and yeah, they're really in an unstable position right now.
Yeah, you know, and it's really interesting to see how these drivers are handling these cars in this later stage of the tire wear, so on and so forth. We're definitely seeing a lot of slipping and sliding happening on our screens. We're also seeing a lot of it happening in our timing and scoring data, but obviously we can't show you all everything that's happening at the same time. Sometimes there's just too much of it to show all at once. But either way, at this point in the race, Gareth, I mean, you know, lap 26, we're only 7 laps before drivers make their, hopefully, maybe. Oh boy, what just happened here? We got smoke on the track. Not sure what happened there. I think contact.
I think Colby had a little bit of a spin and a little bit of a meet and greet with the wall there. That's a first date going wrong.
That is definitely a rock meeting a hard place, or being between a rock and a hard place, as it's so eloquently said. But yeah, I think at this point in the race, the fact that, you know, we've seen James Miller and Aaron Smith, as well as Howie Briss and Nicholas Lovell. We even had Daniel Mosteller in this little group here for a while. He's managed to separate himself from that pack and is trying to trail down the leaders. But the fact that these drivers have been able to maintain relatively close distance to one another, again, speaking about the 4 drivers that I just mentioned, is impressive. I mean, a full stint here that these drivers have been on, and we haven't seen them get outside of basically a second of one another. So the fact that, you know, they're able to maintain that consistency not only in a short run, but in a long run here on a track like Long Beach is just, I mean, Gareth, you said it earlier, these drivers are incredible, and I think this is just an example of why they are just fantastic drivers through and through.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, we're not even halfway through this race, but you know, if these drivers, I don't know if they're happy to keep racing or if they're miserable, but either way, it's actually Lyle's going to make the first trip down pit road. That's going to be our first green flag stop at lap 28 of 64. So maybe deciding to get a little bit of those repairs done to her car early on and continue it towards the end. I'm assuming she reckons that she can go the rest of the distance on fuel and will handle those tires providing the wall does not take a hold of her. So she's going to give it a go, as for in terms of strategy wise anyway, as we see James Miller and Aaron Smith still fighting for that lead, and Aaron Smith just won't quit. Aaron Smith is the road racing extraordinaire for sure, and I think he's getting rather unhappy. Oh no! As I say, I was actually talking about Aaron Smith, so that was not a commentator's curse. Everyone in the spectator, I would like to say, but yeah, yeah, James Miller, I think just got a little bit, just a little bit. I think the pressure just got to him. I think after 28 laps of constant, you know, Aaron Smith in the rear, I think that might have just got to him. But knowing James Miller, he's a fighter. He's not just gonna let Aaron Smith run away with it. He's gonna try his hardest to stay on the back bumper of the 92 machine.
Yeah, and with that as well, I mean, we're coming close to the expected pit window for these drivers, and for James Miller, this might not exactly be the end of the world situation here. He's right now currently maintaining pace. He's within a second of Aaron Smith at this point in time, but I gotta wonder and I gotta worry for the 09 driver here if he's going to be able to maintain that pace in that 09 car. I mean, taking a look at the 92 machine, Aaron Smith has done a phenomenal job of keeping this car off the wall and keeping this car extremely clean. I don't see a scratch of paint missing from that 92 machine here, Gareth, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's made any sort of mistake as far as making contact with the wall. Maybe a scrape here or there, but again, I don't see it there. I think he's been able to maintain a clean car in the 29 laps that we've seen here so far, and I gotta wonder if potentially the damage that James Miller has now taken to that front left, you can see just a little bit of that bumper kind of bent in there, is going to have maybe an impact on his ability to keep up here with Aaron Smith, as Aaron makes a little bit of a scrape there to the wall there, going through the right-hander on the final turn.
Yeah, we've been watching this battle quite a lot, and Aaron Smith has really been able to stay out of the wall for the majority of it, like you said. So his car is, oh geez, I'm having problems with my voice today. His car is really, it's still in pretty much tip-top condition. So James Miller's had a few minor scrapes throughout the race, trying to keep Aaron Smith behind him, but nothing too major, except for obviously that big moment there. So that's gonna play quite the role, I would definitely assume so, in the way that car handles, and potentially steering rack issues, which would be possibly the worst thing to happen, where you're basically driving straight, but the wheel is cocked at an angle, and certainly will slow you down. I mean, regardless of how good you are, that's going to play a huge factor. But we've been looking just for a bit now while I've been talking at the 97 and the 37, and that's going to be Howie Briss and Nicholas Lovell, both of them just sliding sideways all over the place. I thought Nicholas Lovell was going to make a move there on Howie Briss for the 4th position, but then Lovell got loose himself. So Lovell looks like he's another driver that has quite a few damage, quite a bit of damage, and the leaders would come down pit road.
Pit road for the leaders here, and it is going to be a mad dash for these two to get out of pit road and back out onto track here. And really, I think this is all going to come down to where they end up, as far as, I guess, where their times are going to be. It looks like they're both stacked up right next to each other, so it's going to be oh no, they both missed their stalls. Woo! Okay, this is quite the stop here. Daniel Mosteller also making his way through. Gareth, I wasn't expecting to see both of our leaders roll past their stalls and have to hit that reverse and back into their stall. At least James Miller had to, and Aaron Smith, I think, had to roll forward.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all. That's an interesting turn of events, and I'm sure one that Ashley Lyle is probably looking at and going, maybe something can happen, because as we saw Lyle come down a little bit early, but it looks like Ashley Lyle did take the repairs. So no, I think she's coming out ahead of Miller. Yeah, she's come out. She's gonna be ahead of Miller, but behind Aaron Smith. So, that's what we were talking about earlier, though. Is Aaron Smith, the reason why he came out earlier than both of these, or is on track at the moment ahead of both of Ashley Lyle and James Miller, is purely, I would say, due to the fact that he's kept it off the wall. Because I would say, judging from the times that, like the time that James Miller stayed on pit road, I would say that that's repairing the damage that he had to his car. And Ashley Lyle, probably the same sort of deal. So as she had not too much, but a little bit of damage on that fender, and I don't see it anymore. So great job from the pit crew to get that fixed as well as they could. You can still see a little bit there, but I'm pretty sure it was worse before. As Nicholas Lovell will head down from behind Briss in the 2nd place position, and Briss is going to keep going here. So this will be interesting to see how long Briss stays out, as we've smack bang in the halfway mark right now.
Yeah, and looking at things right now, looking at timing and scoring, Aaron Smith and Daniel Mosteller will end up taking that 1st and 2nd place spot. Ashley Lyle will retain her 3rd place spot once Howie Briss makes his way down through pit road. And I got to think for Howie Briss at this moment is possibly thinking more end race strategy right now more than anything, Gareth. He's currently one of the drivers that's staying out the longest on this set of tires here. Now, granted, about half of the field still has to make their way down through pit lane, but Howie Briss up here in the front in the race, as well as being up in at the top for the championship. Still going to be looking for the best possible finish that he can, and I've got to wonder here if that he might be thinking that if he's able to kind of save those tires a little bit more for the end of the race, be able to potentially make up a spot or two, depending on how things work out here as he works his way down into pit road.
Yeah, I can tell you just from what you saw there with his way down pit road, I can tell you that that's certainly not a pit entry by any means, and a very unforgiving one if you do mess it up. So great job for him to come down relatively easily, almost making that look like poetry in motion, really, the way he just turned that car in there. But Howie Briss is going to serve his time. Daniel Mosteller now. I got to bring this up. I don't know where Mosteller came from all of a sudden, but he's ahead of Ashley Lyle, and he has had his pit stop already. So, not sure how that's worked its way through, but Mosteller in the second position at the moment, just behind Aaron Smith. So, very surprised by what Mosteller's been able to do with that 87 machine.
Yeah, and now everything comes down to, Ashley Lyle there, very, very close, making a slight kiss to the wall there to the rear end of the 51 machine, but everything comes down to the wire now at this point. No one is going to be going down through the pits again after this stop. It's all going to be a dash to the end, and as a driver, you're pretty much your only chance of being able to gain on a position, bring down a gap, is if a driver makes a mistake. That's going to be your only saving grace here at this point in the race, given that all of our drivers here, we're seeing gap times of, you can see it on the left-hand side of your screen, sort of, doesn't exactly give you a great idea of things, but we're seeing gap times here, interval times here, rather, of, I would say, averaging about 20 seconds. It seems like, give or take. But yeah, at this point in the race, everyone is spread out. There's not going to be a whole lot of close battles happening out on track. The closest one that we have at this moment is between Logan Jones and Sean Williams for that 6th place spot, and both of these drivers have yet to come down through pit road here as well. So folks, I mean, as things kind of progress here into this second half of the race, we're pretty much going to be looking for drivers making critical errors up in, whether it's the top 5 or the top 10, all of the positions where points are going to play the most helpful role for drivers in the championship here. Again, we're seeing fights for the 2nd place spot in the championship as well as the 7th place spot in the championship. So there's 2 different spots in the top 10 that can be had for in the final few races that we have here in the 2022 season. But Gareth, I mean, at this point in the race, if you were a driver here and you were seeing gap times of 10 seconds to the next driver ahead of you, I mean, what's kind of your game plan at that point? What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, I mean, it depends where you come from as a driver. For me personally, I still like to try and hot lap and get the laps that I think, lap times that I think I deserve to be getting on the board. But you've got to be careful of obviously overrunning yourself and overextending yourself. So you almost give it about 90% of your best, maybe even less, maybe even a little bit more, just to make sure that you can get those nice lap times in consistently quick, but not to the point of, you know, obviously having a little bit of an issue or spinning it around or anything like that. As the battle's going to split up, Logan Jones is going to come into pit, and surprisingly, Sean Williams still has not pit. Now, neither has Scott Shire, Matthew Fitz, or James Koulibaly, so certainly not the only one out there that hasn't pit yet, but this is very impressive. I mean, I said the fuel window was going to be 30 to 40 laps. I've been proven wrong by Ashley Lyle being the first one to come down on lap 28, and most of the field coming down in the early 30s. But, you know, I'm very surprised Sean Williams proving that you can go quite a bit longer if you're willing to put up with the fall off on those tires.
Yeah, and the fall off seems to be pretty massive on these cars. It seems to be that once you get get those tires warmed up, they don't last very long here. And now, granted, there's not a whole lot of actual, well, I say that, but you look at the track map and you might have a different opinion, but this isn't exactly a track that has, a record number of turns, but these are all basically 90-degree turns, almost every single one of them. You have the 180-degree turn at the final turn, which we're watching Sean Williams make his way through right now. I guess it's not really 180 degrees, but whatever. Point being, this track is going to be extremely aggressive on these tires, regardless, and trying to save those, trying to maintain those. I mean, you'd have to be just an absolute racing legend to be able to keep these tires raceable for a full 32 plus laps. I mean, the fact that Sean Williams is doing it right now, granted, he's pulling off lap times of about 1:32, so he's currently about 6 or 7 seconds off the pace of drivers on a fresher set of tires, so it's not exactly like he's setting any speed records here, but definitely still showing that you can take these tires and your fuel just a little bit longer than what you might expect here.
Well, the really impressive thing, and I'm just going to say this, the really impressive thing that I'm seeing with Williams is that he's not. You can see. I mean, I know his lap times are a little bit slower than some of the rest of the field, especially with the newer tires. But we're not seeing any moments, for lack of a better word. Like he's not spinning the rears. He's not slipping and sliding all over the place. He's just calm and collected, and that car seems very planted for him at the moment, which is incredibly surprising considering how long he's been out there. Just taking his time, and in he comes, and there you go, lap 37. I believe he's going to be one of the last ones down pit road. We've still got a couple other drivers out there who haven't come down yet, but yeah, Williams coming down right now.
Yeah, and some of the other drivers that have yet to come down into pit road, it's Scott Shire, Matthew Fitz, and James Coulibaly. The 69 machine Matthew Fitz, who we're currently watching right now, making his way through the final turn here. Lap 38 of 64, currently finding himself, well, as he comes down through pit road here as well. I think this lap 38 is about where these drivers are going to take it here. Let's see if James Coulibaly is going to opt. Yes, he is. He's going to take another lap around. So Coulibaly here, the Verizon machine, going to have the longest run out of the entire field here. Actually, no, I take that back. Scott Shire is out there as well still.
Yeah, Scott Shire and James Coulibaly were both one lap down. So for them, this will be the same, like this lap at the moment will be the same lap as Sean Williams, I believe.
Yes, I was looking at my timing incorrectly. That's my bad.
That's all right. So yeah, not necessarily staying out for any longer well, I mean, they are staying out for longer time-wise, but yeah, so we'll see. If they do stay out one more lap, either of them, then they will get the title of staying out there longer. But Scott Shire's just come in, and we will see if Coulibaly comes in as well. Currently the final car out there that has not come down pit road. And as we were talking and as we were watching all the other things going on, we unfortunately missed. Ashley Lyle has made it past Daniel Mosteller for that second place position. And don't look now, but the 09 machine is creeping up in the back there as well.
And I gotta wonder here, Gareth, if, I mean, Aaron Smith, he's pulled away from this field and has basically shown that it's his race here tonight. Unless he makes a critical error here and bends that car into the wall, I really don't expect to see anyone make any sort of move up to the front here. But as for the top, the second and third place positions, I think we could see quite the battle forming here, as again, like you alluded to, Ashley Lyle, Daniel Mosteller, and James Miller all getting packed up in a bunch here. And, you know, as regretfully as let me rephrase that. As regretfully as I have to say here, Howie Briss currently 5th place at this moment, almost 25 seconds back from this pack here that we have at the moment. So, I mean, Howie's still going to be in the top 5. So not exactly a terrible race day, going to be pretty much right in par with what we'd expect from Howie Briss, the consistency, you know, those top five, or, I just repeated myself.
He's the consistency king.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he gets top 5s incredibly often, and he's just all around just very, very consistent driver and able to be in the points almost each and every week. And that's what's led him to being in the lead for the championship, as Ashley Lyle goes for a nasty little spin, able to keep it underneath her. So fantastic job to get a hold of that one. Daniel Mosteller will take over that 2nd position at the moment due to that little spin there. And as I said earlier, James Miller is definitely wanting to become part of this battle, as Ashley Lyle seems to really be struggling with those tires that have now warmed up because of that near spin, and Miller's looking to take advantage already.
Yeah, and I think Miller is definitely going to have the intensity here necessary to push his way up into the top 3. I mean, we've seen the consistency, we've seen the pace that James Miller can set here in the 09 machine. Still having a little bit of that damage up on the front left, but it's not slowing him down in any regard here. Miller showing some very impressive pace here at this moment. Currently tracking down Ashley Lyle, timing and scoring showing that he is faster at this moment than the 51 machine, but still has a little bit of time, a little bit of a gap left to close before he's able to make a fight for that 3rd place spot here. And I possibly believe he might be able to make it happen here in these next couple turns.
Yeah, I'm sure he's trying to set his sights for a dive into turn 1. That's what
there it is, right there.
I would be doing. That's out of the hairpin towards the start-finish straight, so not where I was thinking. But Ashley Lyle getting a little bit loose, really struggling with that hairpin at the moment, and that's allowed James Miller to get that spot. And I'm sure if I was Miller, I would be blocking off as he does so that potential lunge into turn 1. So James Miller just got a better handle on his car at the moment, and he's going to work his way to try and catch up to Daniel Mosteller. Now, if anyone was interested, what we were saying a little bit earlier on, James Coulibaly came down pit road and finally served his stop on lap 39, I believe. So he did manage to get the honors of staying out the longest of any car on track before coming down and grabbing new fresh Goodyears. But yeah, Mostella's been gapping a little bit to Miller at the moment, so I've been very impressed by that. Miller not happy to see it, I'm sure, and there's going to be more of a fight coming up.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder, with 24 laps left to go here, if any sort of, I guess, really what I'd like to see here is if anybody is going to get stacked back up to anybody and put on a good show here, put on a good fight for the final 23 laps that we have here. Thankfully, we've been able to stay green this whole time, and drivers have had, at this point in the race, 41 laps to be able to show their dominance, show what they have going into Long Beach here tonight. And so far, I mean, we've seen Aaron Smith now, who's led pretty much the second half of the race here, if you will. We've seen James Miller, the 09 machine, who had an incredible start to the race, able to fend off Aaron Smith. I believe it was for 28 laps before he found himself in that 2nd place spot, and after pit cycles, finding himself now in 3rd place at this moment, which I gotta take a step back here and go back to pit stops and kind of, you know, reiterate on the fact that James Miller came out well further down the field than Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith came out back into 3rd place when he came out of pit road. James Miller, I think he came out, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Gareth, but I want to say it was 7th or 8th position. So the fact that he's back up here in the top 3 is phenomenal.
Yeah. Ashley Lyle did the exact same. Fell down to about 7th or 8th, and I think a lot of that was due to them getting a little bit of damage repaired on their vehicles. They both had a little bit of damage coming down into pit road from a few scrapes with the walls. So I think that is the predominant reason as to why they fell back a little bit on that pit cycle, and that's what's allowed Aaron Smith to really get the gap that is keeping him out front at the moment. And yeah, I think that's really what the key was. It was just the pit cycles. You know, they would have been close together still if it weren't for the bits of damage that were on the cars at the moment. But yeah, Ashley Lyle still putting up quite the fight. I'm not going to lie. I thought that once James Miller got past her, that she would possibly like fade back just a little bit. But she's proving that she's still got some to give, and she wants a podium position, so she's going to fight for it.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder here if potentially James Miller might have some sort of technical issue with the car that's kind of holding him back here a little bit. Potentially a little damage to that front end that the pit crew wasn't able to bang out before he went back out onto track here. Granted, he was only in there for a few seconds here. Let me take a look here. He was in there for a total of 1 minute and 13 seconds down in pit road. His total pit time was 30 seconds. So the crew only had about, well, 30 seconds to be able to fix anything that was potentially there. And granted, you have to account for the 14-15 seconds that it takes to get the tires on and off. So, you know, whatever that the pit crew was managed to do, it was probably just pick off some debris and make sure that the tire was okay and just replace the tire. So, I mean, there could be more mechanical issues wrong with the car that we can't necessarily see that James Miller might be feeling behind the wheel that, again, potentially might be holding him back here just a little bit. But I'm only guessing here. I could be entirely wrong here. It could just be the fact that Ashley Lyle, you know, she reached down underneath the seat and turned on the NOS valve, and, you know, it's go time. You know, that, hey, I feel it. I respect it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, if you can pass one off from the inspectors, I mean, you know, more,
it's just an air tank. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's yep. I was gonna say something else, and I can't think of anything better than that. So we're gonna go with air tank. But yeah. James Miller at the moment getting held up a little bit by, I believe that's going to be Connor. No, that's not Connor Gibson. That's Logan Jones in the number 3 machine, sitting in the 8th spot at the moment. So, yeah. Oh, Miller getting, was that the wall that he was hugging there? I think it was very close. If it wasn't hitting the wall, so that could be interesting, as he almost has a moment once again. Oh, this you know, Long Beach just never fails to give great racing, and these cars and these drivers never fail to give great racing. So you put them together, and well, guess what? You've got a great race.
Oh, I 100% agree, Gareth. I think Long Beach is among one of the you know, honestly, I'm going to say one of the few street circuits that actually provide some really, really solid racing. You know, there are very few left in the world that really kind of give you just this really good, well, I don't want to say close because we do have quite a bit of spread between the field, but we get a lot of this great battles happening between drivers, and the technical layout of this track just provides some very unique driving styles from the drivers, and just some excellent racing to view. And hopefully everyone watching at home is enjoying what they're seeing, because I know that myself and Gareth are certainly enjoying what we're seeing up here. You know, Dawn Hilbrand's in the chat. She mentioned a little bit earlier, I didn't get a chance to touch on it yet, but she said, Mason, you should race one of the last few races. And I couldn't help but chuckle to myself a little bit. But you know what, Don, if I did, and Gareth, we actually had a conversation about this a little while ago. I believe it was last week, actually, or 2 weeks ago, after one of the races, that I should drive in the series and commentate at the same time, which to me would just end horribly. But anyway, I think I think
That's
that
an
would,
in-race report right there. That'd be great.
oh, that I think that would be a heck of an experience, and I would definitely have to learn how to drive and talk at the same time, because sometimes when I'm behind the wheel and I'm getting into things, I don't say too much. I get quiet sometimes.
Yeah, that's the mark of a true racing driver right there. You focus up. It's yeah. You know what, Mason? You're just good. You just, yeah, yeah. That's what it is. You're a good driver. You just don't think you are, and that's ultimately, you know what, you're gonna have to change that. So we're gonna have to get you involved in more racing series. I agree with Dawn. We got to get you involved in something. If not this series, I'm gonna petition you to get involved in something. As Miller spins,
boy.
Matthew Fitz trying to get out of the way, but just a very odd, sort of hard place to do it. Logan Jones having a bit of a moment in the back there as well, as I stumble over my words very briefly. But James Miller and very, very lucky to get away with that one without any damage at all. It looks like Mostella has left these two, which I've been very, very surprised by. I thought Miller would be able to chase Mostella down. Mostella proving that that's not the case. He's like trying to catch a fly with a fly swatter. It will never happen. So James Miller, I almost got them confused there. James Miller and Ashley Lyle are going at it now for the final podium position. Ashley has really closed this gap, and like you said, it could be due to Miller, but I genuinely think that she's found a rhythm and she's stuck to it, and
Ooh,
seems to
boy.
be working. And there's the commentator curse once again. I seem to be famous for it, so maybe I should just stop talking.
Oh, poor Gareth. He's got the commentator's curse crucifix on him right now, and unfortunately he's just dissing it out all over the place at the moment, unwillingly. He's still, Gareth, you're absolutely right though. Ashley Lyle is doing a phenomenal job behind the wheel of the 51 machine. Look at her just drifting her way through the final turn, out of turn 11 on the final onto the front straightaway, excuse me. And I mean, she has not been afraid to get that car, real loose. I mean, frankly, she looks comfortable doing it. You don't see that too often with a lot of drivers. You don't see a lot of drivers that are willing to get that car as loose as you see, like what we're seeing here from Ashley Lyle. And I think that's just the drive and the determination of the 51 driver. She is giving it her all here. And like you said earlier, she was excited coming into this race from her interview last week, again coming home with that second place finish at Auto Club, and looking again to put herself on the podium here if she can make this battle with James Miller happen here and be able to get out ahead of that 09 machine with 17 laps left to go. And frankly, 17 laps left here at Long Beach. We've got trouble here for Howie Briss. No, that's not Howie Briss. Who was that?
Colby.
James Colby. Oh boy, Patrick Colby, not James Colby.
Yeah, he just had a bit of a spin in front of those two battling for position there for the third spot. But once again, no caution and able to keep it going. So that's really the main thing here. We continue to watch this great race unfold. And you were saying earlier about, we've talked about Ashley quite a bit at the moment, but we can talk about Miller as well. Like Miller showed an extraordinary amount of pace, keeping Aaron Smith behind him for the longest part of the first half of this race, and just unfortunately had a bit of a moment, and that caused him to get really some damage, and then the pit crew had to work on it, and they've got him back out there, and he's sitting in third at the moment. But yeah, having a few more moments than, speaking of, Ashley with a moment herself.
Yeah, you know, and I think I think at this point in the race, for these two drivers, I think they're both well aware that they're probably not going to track down either Aaron Smith or Daniel Mosteller. I mean, these two drivers have pretty much just driven away from this field here. Daniel Mosteller currently about 6.5 seconds away from James Miller and Ashley Lyle, and from Aaron Smith, it's about 18.5 seconds from third place here. So I don't think with 15 laps left to go, these two are going to have any sort of questions in their minds as far as will I catch up to the leader. It's more or less, can I keep myself in the race here ahead of the driver either behind me or in front of me. I mean, it's really going to be a battle of consistency for these two drivers. And for Ashley Lyle here, I think I would be the most concerned for at this moment, given just she's kind of had a few more moments than she probably would want to see here, just getting into the wall a few more times than she would like, and ultimately that's going to cost her time here. And that's, oh boy,
She dropped off a lot. Yeah,
I was wondering where she went.
Oh, it looks like she's crabbing and she's struggling,
no.
and that's
no.
That's a yep.
Oh,
that was bound to happen at some point.
That was
Wait for traffic to go past and get it geared up, and yeah, Williams goes past. She has another moment, just clips the tire wall, and yeah, that's devastating.
That's heartbreaking.
I don't know if you can go back and have a look at how that all unfolded. I know it's going to be a bit tricky to find it, but yeah, she just dropped off all of a sudden, didn't she? I wonder if it was turn 1 or if it was the fountain. See, she comes into turn 1. Yeah,
there it is.
Just flips around, and then I think she had some more trouble heading into the fountain as well. Those tires were already heated up from that spin, and yeah, just unfortunately can't get a handle on it. Just a bit of a struggle. It's yeah, that's not what you wanted to see. And you know, I was just about to start alluding to Ashley Lyle actually as well, because I was about to start talking about how, you know, she came down earlier than anyone else before lap 30, the only car to come down before lap 30. And so I was about to talk about how her tires will be really feeling the strain of, you know, doing more of a run than her previous set. But I guess I don't, I mean, I can still talk about it. I just have. But, you know, it's not as much of a talking point anymore. As you can see, she's still struggling. That's yeah. I mean, I don't know, if I was her, I'd bring it down. Yeah, I'd bring it down pit road and get some new freshies. And seems like she came in a bit hot, but we'll gloss over that one. As Daniel Mosteller, I'm still
that was impressive. You just whipped
every
it around
time I
that
say
turn.
someone's name, they spin. I'm just, oh man.
You know, and that was probably the most controlled spin that we've seen all night through that turn. I mean, it looked almost intentional from Daniel. I don't think it was, but that was the most impressive.
Just a bit of a wiggle to say hi to us in the booth, probably. just a little wave. I don't know, a wave of the rear end. But yeah, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared to say the driver's name now. I feel like there's just going to be bad luck befalling them all. But
I'll just make it more interesting. That's all.
Well, you know, what is interesting though, and I've said this already, but I'm going to say it again because it dumbfounds me. Somehow Mosteller's found himself in second, and it's not as if it was just on pit strategy alone, which I've alluded to before, because his pace is actually, last time by, was actually just as fast as Aaron Smith, our leader, and and faster than James Miller behind. So clearly, you know, Daniel Mosteller has found some pace out of nowhere and showing us what he can do.
Yeah, and looking at timing and scoring here, Gareth, I mean, it's showing that Mosteller, he's got some speed underneath that 87 machine right now. He's currently tracking down Aaron Smith slowly but surely. He's managed to whittle it down from 18 seconds to now 17 and a half seconds and slowly decreasing. I mean, it's definitely going to take a long time, and it might not even be possible for Daniel to be able to track down Aaron Smith. Frankly, with 12 laps left to go, a 17 and a half second gap is a massive, massive gap to decrease. And I mean, as admirable as it would be to see Daniel Mosteller, trail down Aaron Smith and put on a fight for the lead, I just don't think he has quite enough time. But the fact that he's able to be faster at this point in the race than our leader, after really not being up in the front a whole lot here tonight, and also being all by himself here. So it's just impressive to me that Daniel Mosteller is all by himself and able to basically outpace our leader here. I mean, and probably not even knowing it, too.
I mean, if he has the broadcast up on a different monitor, or I know some of these drivers will watch it during the race, and some of them will watch it after, and maybe seeing himself, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to perform. They're watching me now." But it's it's been great seeing him turn off these laps, and I don't know what's gotten into him, but or maybe someone's offered him a cookie if he can catch up to Aaron Smith, or like a bit of chocolate chip. I don't know, but you can't tell I'm hungry. But yeah, it's no, it's been very impressive seeing him. And one thing I have to say, because we have not talked about it the entire race. The entire race, he's not been mentioned really at all. I have to say just how much Corcel has gained. I mean, he's sitting in 5th at the moment. He's up 11 spots in that KFC machine. Seemingly out of nowhere, he's in the top 5. And I'm not sure how that one's happened either. We haven't followed, as I said, we haven't followed his race as closely as possibly I would have liked to, but we've had a lot going on in all other sections of the track. And he's just been clicking off laps. You can see Aaron Smith, the leader, behind him. I just can't say enough how surprised. Like, he's still on the lead lap at the moment, and I'm just absolutely amazed that he's up. He's up 11 spots. He's in 5th. I mean, that KFC machine is doing a fantastic job.
Oh, he brought the bucket and more tonight, and I mean, sitting up here in the top 5, this will be the second time that Nicholas Corcel will potentially have finished in that top 5 spot here. He currently has the leader, Aaron Smith, all over his rear end there. I believe that's Aaron Smith. Yes, it is. Okay, perfect. But yeah, Nicholas Corcel here, the fact that he's able to keep himself up here in the top 5 is going to be huge. I mean, he's in an environment that's probably not all too comfortable for him. Granted, he's doing phenomenal up here in the top 5. This is going to be big for the confidence of Nicholas Corcel, and hopefully for the number 7 team going forward into next week at Laguna Seca, where the track is going to be the same. Well, I don't want to say the same level of technicality, because that would be a rude understatement, but
it's a different level of technicality. Like, it's still very technical, but it's technical in a different way.
I agree.
Like, I'm not sure exactly how to describe it to you, because the difference is being obviously that Laguna Seca next week is a road course. It's not a street circuit, so less bumpy, nice smooth track, but it has several corners in there, most notably, of course, the famous corkscrew, that are just known for taking a driver's ego and just throwing it out the window. So yeah, we should see another technical track straight after this one, but for different reasons and with a little bit more forgiveness in terms of runoff and no walls right next to the track. But the track itself is probably harder to stay on.
You know, and thankfully for these drivers here, Gareth, and it's something that I kind of just thought about, is the fact that, you know, these drivers aren't necessarily all that ill-familiar with having a wall on their outside, or, well, in this case, on their inside in some cases. As an oval racer, you kind of have to be pretty spatially aware. And I mean, not to say that road course racers aren't, because you obviously have to be there as well, but I mean, for these drivers specifically, I mean, having a wall on your inside or outside may not be as a foreign of an idea as you would see on road courses, while it still is kind of an obstacle for drivers to overcome, because you don't have any sort of room to work with. If you make a mistake on a turn and you end up sliding, you're probably going to make friends with the wall, whereas you would go on a track, say, like Spa. You're going to have plenty of places to run off and not really necessarily worry about hurting your car too much. Laguna Seca, same scenario. So it's kind of a double-edged sword situation, if you will, but for these drivers, I don't think it really bothers them potentially all that much here. It's more or less just another thing that they have to be aware of. But another thing, Gareth, I mean, the fact that all of these drivers here tonight have tackled this extremely challenging course and are heading into another challenging road course next week. It's just, in the final few races of the season, I mean, I don't think you could really ask for a more exciting kind of finale, if you will.
I mean, we've still got a couple of races after, but yeah, I see where your point is, though. Like, we've, you know, it's the season is winding down, but the championship is ramping up. I guess that's the best way I can think of to describe what's going on. You know what? You're perfect on this, because I was literally just about to talk about Colby. I was just like, you know, Mason has control of the cameras and he does a fantastic job week in, week out. So I thank him for that, and I'm sure the viewers do as well. But yeah, Patrick Colby came down pit road a second time, only last lap. So he put some fresh tires underneath him, so he should be able to make some moves around the outside of the hairpin. That's an interesting one. But Colby did leave him the room. Now going to shut it off, though, as I'm sure Colby is going to send it to get that 10th place spot on into T1. But yeah, Colby on new tires just recently came down, so that's very surprising, as it looks like Koulibaly is going to just make his car as wide as he can. Too wide into the...
Oh, Gibson!
Oh, jeez! Gibson goes round. Colby thankfully decided that's not how to...
No, that's not what you want to do. Oh.
Dare I say it?
Oh. I want to hear
it. Yeah, that was a very, very dangerous position to be, but obviously saw on the relative that cars were coming, so tried to get out of the way as quickly as possible, and that's a huge amount of damage. That's probably worthy of a tow, I would say. That's a bit of a danger on the track at the moment. I believe that was that Connor Gibson's machine. That was.
Yes, it was. And I want to interrupt here for just a second, Gareth. And
you're good.
I think if Connor Gibson does decide to take a tow to pit road, that actually will by default bring out a caution here. That is as per the Velocity Racing League rules. If I understand correctly. It's been a while since I've looked at the old rule book, but if I remember correctly, if a driver does have to come down into the pits using a tow vehicle, the caution will come out here. So I think Connor Gibson's going to be trying to fight that 31 machine down into the pits to avoid bringing out the yellow here with only 6 laps left to go.
Okay, so I was unaware that I have to admit I was unaware that was a potential rule in effect, and um, so probably I'm sure Aaron Smith is thinking, "Don't tow, please," um, as he
Yeah.
just wants to run away with this win. So yeah, probably a good job then. And Gibson has come down pit road and made it. So with no one having any issues around him or to do with him. So yeah, it just once again proves that there's a lot of respect around this place. I mean, you know, I've got to admit myself, I would probably just say I can't be bothered driving that all the way to pit road and just tow, and then I would have caused a caution and would have made some drivers unhappy. I've got to admit that I would have probably done that. But Connor Gibson, obviously a trooper, and deciding that he doesn't want to make it difficult or throw a spanner in the works, and he just wants to keep everyone running their race. Everyone seems pretty happy and content at the moment, so why not let them be that way? And yeah, fantastic awareness from him. If that rule is indeed in effect, which I'm going to assume it is, because you know the rules better than I. You've been here a lot longer, so yeah, that's
Well,
we see Aaron Smith making his. That was a beautiful. I have never seen
that was
an
gorgeous.
ARCA car, let alone an ARCA car. Sorry, like I don't think I've seen a car go around that hairpin that beautifully before. That was the definition of an optimal racing line.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron Smith could have done that one any better if he tried again. But yeah, Gareth, we also have Tony Hilbrands pointing out in the chat here as well. I was a little incorrect here that you can't tow from the track under green. If they get to an access road, then they can tow. So there is a little bit of an exception in that rule there, but I don't think there's really any sort of access roads here. I do see some runoff areas, but I'm not sure if that would count necessarily.
I would say that counts.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I would say that counts because you can go like here in front of Aaron Smith now towards the camera. There's a big straight runoff area, and then the tow vehicle could approach from outside the course and tow you around. So I believe that would still count.
So with that in mind, there was a potential there for Connor to be able to make a stop a little bit earlier there. But I mean, hey, props to him for making that car all the way down into the pits with that damage. Seemingly, he wasn't able to make any sort of right-hand turns. The front left-hand tire basically detached from the car almost. It seemed like some sort of damage, a toe link, or not a toe link. I'm losing all of my terms here, Gareth.
A steering rack could be.
It could be
if
a steering
that's what
rack.
You were gonna say?
No, I more or less just.
You're gonna say like the tire was just.
It was basically disconnected from the car, is what I was getting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine enough. You don't have to say much more than that. But yeah, and for anyone interested, we're showing that obviously Gibson is almost certainly going to stay out of this race at this point. He's been down for 3 or almost 4 minutes, coming to about that time at the moment. Ashley Lyle has also left after having her issues, struggling with that car about, what was it, about 15 laps ago. You see a little bit of a slap on the wall there from James Coulibaly. And yeah, Howie Brisson in the background as well. Surprised to see him. He's in 4th. So I shouldn't be surprised to see him there because he's pretty much always around that sort of area.
Yeah, the consistency from Howie Briss is it's phenomenal, frankly, to see the level of consistency from Howie Briss. And I mean, again, he's not a driver that comes home with a win every single week, but you can almost guarantee that he will be up there in that top 5, top 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. I mean, frankly, if If there was a fantasy league for sim racing, and you had to pick a driver, Howie Briss would be one of my drivers in my fantasy league. Just kind of throwing that out there. But that, at the end of the day, and that's what's going to count. That's what's going to matter for your championship run, if that's what you're looking for. And some drivers here, that's not what they're here for. They're here to compete. They're here to have fun and race with their friends and other fellow competitors who enjoy sim racing. But for the drivers that are here and competing for title wins and for championships, being able to say, hey, I can at least count on being there in the top 5 or in the top 10, that's going to play a huge role in the long run of your season.
Oh, absolutely. There's no taking away from that. As it's been interesting. I did see a moment just as you panned over to him that Aaron Smith got a little bit loose towards the exit of one of those corners heading into the back straightaway. So that was a little bit dicey for a little bit there, and I'm sure Mostella would have been very happy to see that one happen. But white flag is out. 1 lap to go for Aaron Smith, Daniel Mostella, and James Miller, looking like our top 3 at the moment, barring any issues or woes that may befall them as they make their final lap here tonight. But it's been a great race, and definitely a race of attrition, but a race of great battles as well, from what we've seen tonight.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and drivers have taken such a difficult track and car combination and really just given it the beans. I mean, they've all shown some incredible skill here tonight. Drivers that normally we don't really get to see them too much in the front up here on road courses. Daniel Mostella are going to be one of those drivers that, again, really doesn't get to see themselves up there at the top of the field for road courses, but he does a phenomenal job. And actually kind of taking a look here at the history from Daniel Mostella, looking at, so if we take a look here, Road America, he actually did fairly well there, finishing second on the podium, and then going forward just a little bit more. He actually didn't attend any more road course races after that, it looks like. So honestly, I don't know why. He pulled off a second place finish here for Road America, and coming home second place now once again here at Long Beach. Aaron Smith coming home with the win here tonight, and James Miller going to take it home for third place here tonight. Gareth, I mean, what a phenomenal race that we had here. I really wasn't expecting this to go the way that it did. I was honestly expecting to see some battles kind of in the first lap, and after that the field kind of spreads out from there, but we really didn't see a whole lot of that here tonight.
Yeah, no, it was very surprising. I'm the same as you. I expected the drivers to really find their groove early on and just sort of separate into just like a little bubble by themselves and just drive the track, as it is. But we got a much more invigorating race than I could have predicted. And, as always, I want to thank all the fans and the drivers for putting on the shows that we love, and you as well, Mason. I mean, you've done a phenomenal job today and every week for giving us the camera angles, the views, the commentary, and all the everything else that you put into this series. But yeah, I love these guys at VRL, and they always put on a great show. And if this is the first time tuning in, definitely watch next week and the next couple of weeks, as we've got quite a lot more action, I'm sure, coming up for you.
Absolutely, as we see Aaron Smith burning it down here on the finish line in the number 92 Phenom Paint Shop machine, representing Tony Hillbrands here tonight after not able to attend tonight's race due to a mechanical issue with his racing pedals. But we're going to go ahead and get into our post-race interviews. And first up in the booth, it is going to be James Miller in the 09 machine, coming home with that third place finish here tonight and really pulling off a phenomenal finish here in tonight's race. I mean, it was truly incredible. So let's go ahead and grab Mr. James Miller here, and let's go ahead and talk to the 09 driver. James, welcome to the booth, and congratulations on your third place finish here tonight. Long Beach, a very tricky, very technical track, and frankly, James, I mean, you had both me and Gareth kind of convinced that you were going to be the one taking home the checkered flag here tonight, and unfortunately, you found yourself back behind Aaron Smith, and from there it was just a grueling fight. And for a while there, you had to come out of pit roads after a little bit of damage was done to that 09 machine and really fight your way through the field to be able to get up here into that third place spot. So I mean, a lot happened here for the 09 team here, and really pulling off a fantastic finish here despite all of the challenges here. James, I'm gonna quit jabbering away here. Walk me through your night, and did it end the way that you wanted to?
Not at all. But oh, I'm winded. Qualifying went good. Was happy with that result. Honestly surprised I took the lead off the bat. And that we were side by side for so long. But I just kind of figured, with it being a little tricky to pass, and Aaron's pretty respectful, he won't do too many crazy sends anyways, so if I just stayed ahead of him, I figured I could maybe make something happen. But I had no long run speed. I was burning everything up, and then he passed me, or I'd make a mistake, he'd pass me, and so then I'd push a little harder and pass him back just to try to keep the lead best I could. But I eventually wheel hopped it enough to smack the rear axle into a tire barrier and knock the rear toe out. I don't know which way it went. It was just a little wonky. But then the pit stop. So coming into the pit stop, I kind of figured I didn't have a shot, or had a shot, but it was very unlikely. But I was going to see, hopefully maybe I could make something happen with new tires, maybe pass him back somehow, and then try to hold him behind me again. But when I pitted in, I had no fuel or tires selected, so I just sat in the box watching Aaron's pit stop until he left and realized I didn't do any servicing. So then I did a service on the car, which is really embarrassing, and then probably pushed a little too hard after that to make up for it, and the car really fell off. But I guess fortunately we managed to keep third. But man, I am tired.
You sound tired, and I mean, after a long race here tonight at Long Beach and looking forward at Laguna Seca next week, I mean, you had a phenomenal run here tonight, and despite all the challenges that you had here and faced, and frankly, you overcame, in my eyes. I mean, able to come home with a third place finish after all the calamity, all of the things that happened here tonight, and that little bit of a mistake down in pit road. I mean, it's got to help you going forward next week into Laguna Seca, I would imagine. What's kind of your predictions there, and what ultimately are you doing to prepare for that race next week?
Yeah, I mean, last week at Auto Club, I sped coming onto pit road, which was a 40-second hold. And then when I got my lap back, I pitted with the pits closed, which is another 40-second hold. And then I didn't even take tires this pit stop, so maybe clean that up. That would be a good start. But no, Laguna should be good. I've raced that track in lots of different cars before, but a lot of stock cars, and I feel confident. I mean, I always feel good coming into a road course, but you never really know how far off Aaron you're gonna be. Honestly, like, today was a surprise on how close I really could be on speed, but we'll just have to see. I know it doesn't sound the best, but I'd hope for a second place, because kind of felt like I should have had second today. If I didn't mess up on pit road, I probably would have, but obviously want the win. But Aaron's pretty goddamn fast, so we'll shoot for the win, and then hope we finish second.
Well, James, I think I think I can speak for both Gareth and myself when I say that you definitely have what it takes to be able to pull off a win here going into Laguna Seca next week. I mean, from the speed and from the consistency that we saw from yourself here tonight, I definitely wouldn't have a doubt in my mind that we'll see that 09 machine battling it out with Aaron Smith if he shows up next week, whether or not it'll be in the 92 or in his usual number 20 machine. But either way, either how, Aaron Smith always putting on a good show at the road courses and just taking on to his wins here. But James, I mean, you could have, man, it was exciting to watch you battle it out there with Aaron at the beginning of the race, and hopefully next week we get to see a little bit more of that. But before we let you go and crack one open and celebrate with your teammates as well as your fellow drivers, is anyone watching the broadcast that you want to shout out and thank? Anyone at home or in the pit crew before you go?
Yeah, just everyone watching at home, and you guys for broadcasting. I do hope I put on a hell of a show battling Aaron at the start, and I hope to repeat with that at Laguna. We'll just have to see. Maybe do it for the whole race, although that might really kill me if I'm this tired, but we'll have to see. But yeah, just thanks to the fans at home for watching us race virtual cars on a virtual track, and thanks to you guys for putting on a great broadcast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us up here tonight, James, and look forward to seeing you next week at Laguna.
All right, sounds good.
Alrighty, folks, that was James Miller out of the booth here, taking home a third place here tonight. Up next is going to be Daniel Mosteller, taking it home second place here tonight. After a fantastic finish here for the 87 machine, able to bring home another podium finish, not quite a win, but Daniel, I mean, coming out of nowhere, able to come home with a podium. I'm going to pass it off to Gareth here and let him take over from here.
Yeah, first of all, Daniel, welcome to the booth. Have we got you? We got you in here?
Somehow.
Well, speaking of, that's actually a good point. Look, I'll be honest with you, not sure how you managed to do it, but we saw quite a bit of speed out of you today. You were battling heavily with Howie Briss for a while there, and through pit cycles, you found yourself all the way up in second, pretty much. And what do you think was the key to that? Did you have any pit strategy coming in, or was it pure just like luck that you found yourself up there?
So both Aaron and James, they were too far right on their stalls. The pit stalls here can be kind of iffy, and they just messed it up. And I just got really lucky with me nailing it, and yeah, we came out second. I made a little mistake around lap 36, I think. I went spinning in turn one, but I was able to get back up to second, and I had some pretty good pace. If I had a little more time, I think I could have gotten Aaron, but you asked me last week if you'd see me this week on the podium. I had a hard no on that, but I was wrong.
Very wrong. Yeah, you did a phenomenal job. Now, we have heard from James Miller just in the interview prior. He was saying about how tired he was. Was this track really extremely physically demanding as opposed to, say, Coda, where you were last racing at, in regards to road courses, that is?
I haven't raced since Road America, road course wise.
Oh, Road America.
It was definitely more physically demanding, and it's kind of also a mental game. Just you got to nail it each lap. Mistakes. If you make a mistake, there's a good chance you're out of the race. I got lucky with my mistake that I was able to get it looped around before I caused any bigger damage. But yeah, you could definitely say it's more physically demanding compared to other road courses.
All right. Well, how do you feel about heading into Laguna Seca next week? Is that another? Oh, I'm not sure you'll see us on the podium and then get a podium, or what's the deal there?
If I can not butcher qualifying, I honestly think I have a shot at maybe a win. It's definitely a long shot because Aaron, he's really good on these road courses, and this is the second time I finished second to him. So maybe third time's a charm. We'll go with that.
I certainly think you'll be able to. From the performance we saw today, I mean, even the fact that you weren't in the top three for a lot of the race, you were still, putting down lap times that were, you're still putting down lap times that were incredibly competitive, and through the pit cycles found yourself in second. So, great race from you. And I do want to ask one more question though. How was it handling such a loose race car? Because I actually didn't see you. I mean, you mentioned that spin that you had earlier on in about lap 36, but aside from that spin, I didn't really see you having as many problems with a loose rear end as I did most of the other cars on the field.
Yeah, I really wasn't fighting loose. My car was feeling really well. The only time I really felt like I was kind of out of control was about the first 2 laps after I had passed Hallie. I was just all over the place, and other than that, I felt really good. It was just on rails. It was a blast to drive.
All right, well, great to hear from you, Daniel. I'm sure we'll see you again before this season is over. Anyone you'd like to shout out to for the second place finish? Friends, family, sponsors, pit crew members, the floor is yours.
I want to thank you guys for broadcasting. As always, everyone watching. We hope we put on a show. There was some close calls this race, and there was a lot of stuff going on. I heard it in the voice chat there. And want to thank the sponsors: Makoni Setup Shop, 213 Simware. You want to get some Demos merch, go head over there. And Tyler Tinsley for making my paints. He's awesome at making them. He's the man.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll see you up here in the booth in the not too distant future, and it was great to have you, and go have a cold one, celebrate.
All right.
Alrighty, folks, that was Daniel Mosteller taking it home for second place here out of the booth. Gonna go celebrate with the rest of his teammates. And last and certainly not going to be least here, Aaron Smith substituting for the number 92 driver, Tony Hilbrands, here in the Phenom Paint Shop machine, putting the 92 machine up on the top of the pole here tonight. Aaron Smith, welcome to the booth here once again. Going to be tacking on yet another win to your record here this season. Aaron Smith, quite the impressive amount of wins that you have here this season, whether it's on the ovals or on the road courses, especially here on the road courses. You have shown your dominance, and tonight is no exception. The first question that I have here for you, Aaron, is, I mean, you had quite the competition out of James Miller right out of the gate. And me and Gareth were kind of talking about it at the beginning of the broadcast, how the first lap is the most important lap of the race. And for a moment, it seemed like James Miller may have potentially had a little bit of an upper hand on you there for a little while, but you were definitely showing that you had the pace to be able to get out ahead of James Miller, and ultimately the 09 machine finding himself in a little bit of trouble and finding himself down behind you, ultimately taking the lead. But Aaron, I mean, before all that, what was going through your head, and what was kind of your game plan to be able to get ahead of James Miller?
Yeah, I knew the first corner would be the most pivotal one of the race, and unfortunately I messed that one up and set the stage for the first half of the race. Had to wait for James to make a mistake. So at a track like this, the margin for error is so low. It's just you really have to wait for someone to make a mistake. If you try to throw your nose in and have the back tires lock up, you're gonna wreck 2 or 3 cars. So I figured I'd just take my time, save my tires, and see what I could do with them. And toward the end of the run, unfortunately, I was able to get a bit of a nose on them there and get a lead before the first round of pit stops.
Absolutely. And, coming home tonight with the win, after that, pretty much after the pit cycles were said and done, it was pretty much all the 92 machine from there at that point on. Now, carrying forward this momentum into next week at Laguna, we're going to see some interesting action there. It's definitely a very technical, very difficult track in its own right. And just based on what we've seen here tonight, do you potentially see yourself battling with the likes of James Miller and maybe even Ashley Lyle, who we saw having a good run here earlier as well, potentially putting up a fight for the win next week?
If I were to show up next week, it would be a pretty solid race, but I won't be able to make the next 2 races of the season. So this is my last win of the season. So yeah, it's been a good set of races so far, and hopefully these last 2 will be pretty good for the rest of the field.
Well, I'm certainly sad to hear that, Aaron. It was phenomenal seeing you all season long. You put on some great races and, frankly, put on some great fights for all of the drivers here in the field. But Aaron, before we let you go and celebrate with your fellow drivers, is there anyone at home watching the broadcast, anyone in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the folks at the Velocity Racing League for putting this show on and putting this track on the schedule again. It's always a blast to run around these street circuits in these cars, and I'd like to thank y'all for broadcasting, all the folks for watching. Looking forward to. I can't say I'll be getting back at it next week, but whenever I show up next on Team Goon Squad.
Absolutely. Love to hear it. Well, thank you for joining us up here in the booth, Aaron. Congratulations once again on your win here. And look forward to seeing you, whether it's in a future race, whether it's here with VRL or next season, wherever it happens to be, Aaron. Always a pleasure, and congratulations on your season, and look forward to seeing you in the future.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great one. Alrighty, folks. Aaron Smith taking it home for the win here tonight. And that is going to conclude our coverage of the Long Beach 200 here tonight from Long Beach, California. And from myself and Gareth McAllister, I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in and watching. It has been a phenomenal race here tonight to witness, and hopefully each and every single one of you has enjoyed what you saw. If you did, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and get ready for the action that we have next week at Laguna. Gareth, it's going to be some spicy action, and I mean, frankly, hopefully we get to see more battles happening between the likes of Mosteller, Miller, maybe even Howie Briss if he has a better run next week. Nicholas Lovell seemed to be doing pretty well here as well. And Ashley Lyle, who unfortunately had a little bit of a mishap towards the latter half of the race. But, I mean, Gareth, it's going to be a good race next week.
Oh, absolutely. I be honest with you, Mason. I was thinking, oh yeah, 2 road courses in a row. There might be a little bit of gaps and not a whole lot of action, but boy, was I proven wrong. And Long Beach was full of action, so I'm very excited for next week, and it should be a great race. It's a very difficult track at Laguna Seca. Personally, not a fan of driving it. I will be much more of a fan of being in the booth, watching these guys trying to work their way around that track. But yeah, it'll be quite the one to watch, and I look forward to everyone being there.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, everyone, I want to thank you all once again for tuning in and watching, and get yourselves subscribed, get yourselves ready for next week, same time, same place, as we head to Laguna Seca for the Laguna Seca 200. Thank you all for tuning in once again, and we will see you all next week.